Yo, yo, my sovereigns, what up? This is Boba Fett, uncensored on the internet, with episode 103 of Splinterlands 101. Joining us once again, co-hosts of the show, finest gentleman who ever lived, Matt Clark.
Howdy, howdy.
The man behind the Pouffet Poussey, Geotrix.
Thank you for being here, gentlemen.
And the way that numbers come into it, it's just like episodes 101, 102, and 103, 3 episodes in a row, which we were just saying off camera. This is a first for the show. We have had guests on for more than 3 episodes, but 3 consecutives. This is a first. But we're very excited that we do have you on the show tonight, because with the stuff that's coming out of the land, and everyone's talking in every server that I'm on, and there's a little bit of salt over the last one, and other people are super excited, like the same piece of information. Some people are super excited, some people are salty. So yeah, it's good times. How are you, Flauwy?
Well, good to be back. Thanks for having me. It's been a fun conversation the last 2 weeks, and way too short in my opinion. So this just fits in perfectly with the latest updates we got from Splinterlands.
So any surprises or anything that you weren't expecting, or anything that's like thrown a spanner in you? Because like, I know you're pre-prepared for a lot of what you're going to do. Anything that's thrown a spanner in the works for that?
I would even say over-prepared in my case. I listened to Matt's talk with the People's Guild last week, and he was mentioning a couple of user types, and I felt myself a little bit described there, even though he was saying that some are so prepared that they get upset and then leave. That's luckily not the case with me. I'm very happy and excited. I'm super excited about all the news that came, but I was very surprised about the last 2 posts. Some of what was revealed with the buildings, and pretty much most what was revealed with the latest post about desalinization, crystals, and so on. Yeah.
I actually completely forgot about your episode on People's Guild, Matt. I must watch that. For those viewers, I'm in Western Australia, where I'm staying there. I have no internet. There's no internet access. So to connect to the internet, I have to hotspot from my mobile. So that's why I haven't been on the net like 24/7 like I usually are. So I will make some time. I have to do it tomorrow. It's 6:40 Western Australia time. So might even have time tonight. Yeah. Any highlights?
It's just after 9 p.m. here in Adelaide, and it was 2:30 a.m. by the time I wound up with the People's Guild. I'd done 5 hours of podcasting that day after we'd recorded our show, and then their show, chatting to B-Jangles and Hepthorn. I had a great time. It was a great day. You know, when you're doing what you love, it doesn't feel like work. But yeah, by 2:30, after 3 or 4 glasses of wine, I don't know, Flauwy, if I was starting to slur my words a little bit there at the end of it. But it felt like it went well. And, you know, like you said at the start, when you're talking about this game with people who get it, it's just so easy for the time to fly by.
Yeah,
100%.
So with the red wines, was it as bad as my birthday episode with the bourbons?
I don't think so. That was pretty great. I think it's one of my favourites.
That episode, I thought Bob was messing with us. I thought I thought you were acting drunk and just like putting it on. I didn't know. Anyway.
What killed me was, because usually like when I'm drinking, I'll have a drink and a coffee and I sort of balance it out. But I put bourbon in my coffee. So I was actually double hitting the bourbon. So it's bourbon neat, coffee with bourbon, bourbon neat, coffee with bourbon. Yeah, and towards the end of the episode, it was a classic. Yeah.
I'll have to watch it again. Anyway, let's not interrupt Flauwy's time
Yes,
with
this
describing.
is Flauwy's
Yes.
episode. I have enabled screen sharing, so the screen is all yours, mate.
Excellent. I'm just digging out the post here in the background. But I'm happy. You're not interrupting anything here with me. I have my first day of vacation, and
Okay.
for the rest of the year, I will lay low, put my feet up, and do what I always do: read more stuff about Splinterlands.
Wonderful.
Yes, I
Where
think
would
so
you like
too.
to start off then? Where do you? Yeah, I don't know where you're gonna start it.
When I'm free to talk about Splinterlands during our call, you mean?
Yeah,
No,
right here,
let's do
right
it.
now.
Let's do it. I got the phase 2 white paper reveal post here. I will keep it simple, just two windows open this time. Not. I will actually just share the Splinterlands post for now. That makes it easier on the screen here.
I actually really liked the layout you had last time. That was cool.
Yeah, that
I was like, wait,
was
Thanks.
a pretty cool layout.
Thanks.
Yeah.
That's a super wide screen.
ultra wide.
And it worked actually quite well in the video. Watch it later, and it did not look like a tiny, small bar
Nope.
with huge black bars on top and
It
bottom.
scaled. It scaled very well.
Yeah. So, all right, here we go. You see my screen?
Yes.
Excellent. So, this is the phase 2 white paper reveal part 3 about buildings. Zoom in here a little bit and scroll down to the first headline, resource production. And this goes a little bit into what we were already discussing last week. They are mentioning what is being able to be built on all these different land plots. We have the naturals like a farm, which is being able to be built on plains, river, bog, and lake. The logging camp for wood, for swamp, forest, tundra, and jungle. Quarries for stone, desert canyon hills, and mines for ores with mountains, badlands, and caldera. Those can only be built where you have the according territory. So you can't build a farm on a mountain. That will not be possible in Land 2.0. And then we have these special buildings for the magical items, 6, 1 for each splinter, which will all be a specific building with a specific resource for each specific splinter. And finally, the outposts, where you farm essences for on the occupied plots. Those are basically the fixed production buildings where you are farming the resource that's being presented to you from the land plot itself. And there's nothing to change about it. You don't have to build these buildings, but if you want the resource that is available on your resource, on your plot that you have there, then you have to build these buildings accordingly. That's no real news to us, so I would, unless you have something to say about it, keep going in the post.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I see you haven't upvoted the post. What's going on, Flauwy?
That's a good question. My voting power is so low. As you can see here, when I do 100% vote, it just shows nothing. I have like 400 hive right now, and I powered all my hive. I had 11,000 hive, and I powered it all down to what I have now in order to prepare for land. Buy more plots, buy more deck, buy more
Yeah.
cards.
Yeah.
So
Wonderful.
the
Wonderful.
upvoting doesn't work as well as it used to be. But I'm still in control of Monster Curator, your best friend when it comes to Splinter Talk, because it's a curation account with, I don't know, over 30 million SPT staked and delegated from other people. And when I come by and send a vote, or one of the curators from the Wattup cartel, then you get plenty of SPT.
Yes.
I sent that love to your latest videos as well. But usually it's someone else. It's not necessarily me on my own doing it, but
Yeah.
several people have access to it.
Yeah.
Anyhow, here we have the refinement buildings. We also talked about most of them already, but I'm going through them one more time quickly here. There's the mill, to refine grade in combination with wood and elemental essences. So this is very, very crucial because it will create these new splinter foods, elemental foods as they're called here. And we will need them for upgraded buildings because they will eat all your grain if you don't give them special helio food or whatever it's called. Don't have the list available here right now. And it requires elemental essences. This is being created here in the laboratory, which is further down in the list, and is created out of essences and elemental resources. We were just talking about the 6 different splinters. You need one of those resources. We don't know the exact amount. I'm just saying numbers here. You will need some of them and some of the essences and combine them together with your grain in the mill to special splinter foods, which are more effective. And then you will most likely need less of these foods compared to what you would feed your monsters in pure, unrefined grain. And then we have the sawmill. Easy peasy here. It's just wood in and then lumber out. As you need raw wood for mill and for the foundry, you will need the refined lumber for building and maintaining new buildings, as well as for the ancient ruin construction project from the Secret of Praetoria. Something else where you need lumber. Let me have a quick look on the flow chart, but I think that's it. Looks like it. Then the lithification site. Stones go in combination with wood and elemental essences, similar to the mill, but instead of grain, we are refining stone into elemental stones. Again, what comes out is a special stone connected to one of the 6 splinters, based most likely on the elemental essence that you put in before, because there will be 6 different elemental essences as well. Yeah, and you will then also need these stones for the reconstruction project, for buildings and maintaining as their main use cases. We will see if there are other for lumber and elemental stones as well. Then metal bars being created in the foundry out of ores and wood. The wood always here, as you can see, is the resource to fire up the oven, basically, or the
forge.
cooker or whatever. Yes, the forge. The forge for the foundry. It's probably not done by a cooker. And yeah, those again are our 4 natural resources now being refined. We already mentioned the laboratory for the essences and elemental resources combined into elemental essences as part of the resources for the natural refinement. Then the lapidary, which refines gemstones, which come out of the reconstruction project, which up until now, we have no further details about the gemstones in terms of how exactly we get them. We just know they come out of the reconstruction project. And I assume we burn our lumber, we burn our elemental stones as a how do you say, a sacrifice to the reconstruction project, and somehow on the other end we get out some gemstones, raw gemstones, which can then be refined further in the lapidary into 4 different rarities. We were discussing them last week. And then the runology tower, which will take the Trifor runes, which come out of keeps and castles going further, and refine them to research. This is one of the most obscure thing from land for me, because right now we get research points in abundance, and in the future we require the Trifor runes to refine them in our runology tower to get research points. It sounds very difficult to achieve, and we always have to buy the Trifor runes if we don't have a keep and a castle, which is fine. We discussed this already. This economy where you have to sell and buy in order to get into certain mini economies. But still, I wonder how many research points we can even get with that. It must be worth it, right? Otherwise, no one will use it. So yeah, very interesting where this is going. And the alchemy lab finally here on that list, which will refine salt into legendary alchemy, salt and legendary and normal alchemy potions into enhanced potions, which will then be tradable. Most likely, I assume, like all these other 50 plus resources have their own liquidity pool, and we will need them to to craft items and spells later on. Yeah, refinement buildings. And now we get to something really new. Just have to nip on my coffee here.
So where's the salt coming from? Is that all coming from Mav's chat, or is it additional salt?
We will discuss this in a second.
You said
But
that joke last week.
Did I? Damn.
Yeah.
Oh no.
But we will discuss this in a second. It's part of the desalinization process. Very, very interesting, and I'm sure we will have much to discuss about it, and not just me reading from a post list here. But let's get to that in a second, as it's part of the next post. For now, let's have a look at the resource search, because this is actually really the fun part of this specific announcement. We did not know much about how this is going to work. All we knew before that was there will be resource storage buildings, and we knew that the other buildings, like the refinement and production buildings, will have a limited amount of resource for this specific kind of resource as well. So we will not be without any storage for the resources that we create in the mill, for example. The mill itself will be able to store a certain amount of elemental foods, especially for the amounts that we are producing ourselves. But when it comes to more than that, we will get into these resource storage buildings. And the first surprise here was the list itself. I don't know about you guys, but I did not expect that at all. I thought we will build a generic resource building and that's it. And then you have tons of them, but that's not it at all. There's a massive list here of different kinds of resource storage buildings for all the different types. We have the granary for grain and elemental foods, the lumber yard for wood and lumber, stone yard for stone and elemental stones, metal silo for ores and metal bars, the sanctuary for Vertulium, one of the magical resources, and then now followed by the others, seed bank for Ulana seeds, Horde for spark stones, storm casket for battled storms, purgatory, it's a very funny name for one of the storage buildings, for reclaimed souls, and glory decks vault for heliostones. Those are the 6 magical resources, all requiring that very own, very specific, very branded resource storage building. So if you have 1, 2, 3 water magical plots, then you will very likely have to look at the storm casket as an option for your building roster, because if you want to provide the bottled storms into the according liquidity pool, because you have a couple of water magical plots, then you can do that only on a very limited amount without the specific storage building. So yeah,
I've been
I'm
wondering
still,
too, with those where gemstones fit in. Do they need to be stored? I don't
they
see them
didn't mention
listed
them
in
here. So far from the info given to us, without specifically talking about them in this case, it seems they don't get their own storage building. Which immediately answers one of the questions I had with them from the start, which is they are not divisible. So a gemstone is a gemstone. You can't split a
At
diamond
0.70
into
of one. Yeah.
exactly that will not be possible. Unlike all the other resources or most of the others, they didn't say specifically anything about that, but they said it specifically for gemstones. So that question immediately popped up in my head. How does it work with LPs and so on? Also for the fee. How can you buy one gemstone and pay the 10% fee? That would not be possible, right? So they have to think harder how this system applies to the gemstones. And I guess for now, that's maybe one of the reasons why we didn't hear more about it yet.
Well, presumably they're tradable, particularly considering they can come in so many different quality levels.
Yes,
So they
I
would need to
agree.
be tradable. But if we're not doing liquidity pools, that'd be really interesting to see how that works. Or maybe they're not tradable, and it's just the individual who has them who acquires them needs to turn them into items and spells, perhaps. But then, who knows? So many unknowns.
Yeah, I mean, one factor that speaks for the soulbound state of gemstones would be that it comes out of the ancient reconstruction project. What goes into the construction project is partly a soulbound resource, which is research, right? So it's not that super far stretch to think like this. I agree. But then on the other hand, it would make it very complicated for the actual production when we come to items and spells, because then you have everything at hand, whether you produce it yourself or not, whether you bought it, but then you're sitting on all these resources, but you're missing the specific gemstones, and then you're stuck. And I doubt that we want to create a situation where you're stuck, even if you put in the money to buy from the market, which strengthens the entire ecosystem. But then you cannot continue. So I doubt it will be that case. I think there should be and will be some ways to trade them. And I don't necessarily think it will just be a buy-seller market, because that's tricky. I think it's always been very confusing to me, and for everyone who comes new into the game, this will also be confusing to have a buyer-seller market. It's better than nothing, but it's better than over the counter. But still, maybe the game can solve it in a very nice, attractive front end UX UI version, and Nate does his magic there. But yeah, I would actually expect them to be in pools at some point, but then the fee will be paid somehow differently, taken out. It will
I
be
was
taken. It
thinking,
will be taken out of your deck anyways. We learned that much, right? You put in something into the pool, and the deck that you put into the pool, part of that will be taken out for the fee, and you take something out of the pool. Then also from the deck side, the fee will be paid.
yeah, be like a gas fee on the Ethereum network, but we'll be paying a deck fee for gemstones or something like that.
Right. So it would actually work to put them into LPs, because the fees are paid out of the deck anyways, and not out of a 0.1 diamond.
Mm-hmm.
Anyhow,
That does then make you. That begs the question: why isn't there a building listed here that mentions gemstones? It might just be TBD. I don't know. I'm just thinking out loud.
yes, I was wondering the same. We don't have any answer for that, even with the fourth announcement post where we are moving towards. But there's still a little bit more here. There's still a little bit more in the building post. We have the maintenance part, where it's being described that the building will require a monthly maintenance fee. The first month will be
Of course it will.
working perfectly. Yeah, there's some people made their comments in funny and upset ways, but basically everyone is realizing that there will be a lot of fees involved with land. And I do believe this is the key to its success. So we cannot just go back on those fees. I believe they are essential to make this all work and incentivize everything the way it will, because out of these fees we will pay people to do stuff. This is exactly what will make me want to ape into the grain pool in the beginning, and then later on there will be so many options. It will require much more planning to know what we're going for. But yeah, it's it comes out of the fees. Without the fees, it wouldn't work. And now we see actually also with the tax that we pay for keeps and castles. Very interestingly, when we come to the desalinization process, how we can actually make use of it now. Because before we had this 10% fee, right? 5% of that fee goes to keeps and castle owners, and the other 5% are burned. Now you can ask, yeah, that's stupid. Why do we even mint these other 5%? If we wouldn't mint them, that's a break even, and we don't even have processes there. But now we have this available, and we can take it, these extra 5%, without taking anything out of the pockets from keeps and castle owners, because their taxes stay exactly the same, but we still have this liquidity of these 5% extra in order to do something with that. And now with the desalinization process, we see where this is going and how we can create new incentives by doing stuff where we will talk about in a second. But let's stick with the maintenance for now, because we're still here. Yeah, it was mentioned before, pretty straightforward, I think. I forgot about the details, and I don't really want to read through every word here. So let me just scan it quickly, how it exactly works. The first month will be part of the original construction points. And then the maintenance payments will begin on the second month after the building was constructed or upgraded. I think, how did it work? Did you guys have it better in memory? If it goes down, then the production will go down with it, bit by bit. And it depends on how much
paid, your
production
building
you
loses a
made.
level.
Say again?
If the maintenance isn't paid, your building loses a level. So it's quite because then obviously to reclaim that level, you need to have
Eventually,
those same.
not right
Yeah.
away. I think it's
No.
not a thing that happens right away when you don't pay, but eventually it will be leveled down. That's right.
I'm hoping it's a
And
bit like grain, where you can just, especially for those of us who own a lot of plots, where you can just, okay, I've got my stockpile of lumber here and my stockpile of whatever else is required, and I can keep an eye on that. And buildings, as maintenance requirements arrive, that you're just depleting your one stockpile like grain for the region, rather than having to go through and click each building. And I'm sure they'll do that.
yeah, so it's said here that the resources required to upgrade the building to its current level, it's the same as it's required to upgrade it, basically, is the maintenance. And be based on the current level of the building and based on the usage of the building. So if your building is full of production power and firing 24/7, then it will cost you more than when you have this runology tower, for example, which you activate once a week, maybe to go through all the Trifoil runes that you collected or bought from the market, and then you're done, and then you're not doing anything with the building any longer. Maybe I'm just speculating here, but that would be a big difference to a production building that is just producing the entire time without any stop on high production power. And also here, the maintenance costs, you can be paid at any time and can be paid for multiple months at one time. While the actual full maintenance cost for a building has not been paid by the end of month, then the building will drop down one level. So you have a lot of time for that, and you can repay. And yeah, basically throw in more than you require and create a little stash there of resources. And I assume, as you mentioned, it might be on a regional basis, where you have now your grain pool and it serves for everyone, and you just need to observe the grain number without the need to go from plot to plot to see what they specifically require, because that would be a massive amount of extra unnecessary work. Repurposing buildings, you can say, I don't want a runefall tower any longer. I want a different building. And you can basically do that as with the work sites right now. But it will depend on how close the new building is to the old building. We don't know exactly what that specifically means. So if you
Yes. Depends on
repurpose,
how different it is, I guess.
yeah, exactly. But what is closer to the other one? We don't know the exact details of relationships of buildings yet, if you know what I mean. But I guess a mill being converted into a farm will be closer to a mill converted into a rune tower or something, which seems to be further away. But yeah, that's pretty much the gist of it. So I will keep on keeping on. Oh, I will keeping on. You know what I'm talking about. And
Yeah.
here's the castle and keep strive for
Yes.
runes. I already mentioned them. There is not much more to that paragraph, I think. Let me just quickly fly over it, but I think we already mentioned everything that is interesting here. And you can also upgrade to 10 buildings. All buildings have 10 levels. That is something we didn't mention here yet. It was speculated before based on what we have with the guilds. I think there are also 10 levels there, aren't they? And the same will be here, and keeps and castles will be their own building. You can't build another building on a keep and castle plot. And yeah, they will also have 10 upgrades basically available, but you can't repurpose them. They will always be a keep and a castle.
Yep.
I think the moral of this section, the moral of this story is if you don't have castles and keeps, now is the time to prioritize research tokens because they're going to be a whole lot harder to generate when 2.0 drops.
Yeah. So you're seeing my browser, right? I'm switching here into my land sheet.
Wow.
Going into my plot sheet, scrolling here to the side, pulling this little column to the beginning, right after
This
the
deserves a
type.
Holozor award. This is incredible.
It was a lot of work. I'm
Do you know
sitting on this
Holozor,
for half a
Flauwy?
year now. Yes,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
I know
He
him. I remember
he
him.
loves his spreadsheets too. But I think yours are sorry, Holozor, I think Flauwy's are a step up.
We've
And
got nothing
which is
not to worry about spreadsheet.
Which is funny because similar to my new dev experience with ChatGPT that I demonstrated last week, I am not a spreadsheet guy. I never was. I did not learn this. I had no experience with how it works, but I always watched Neil Bedden, our Mr. Spreadsheet, and I enjoyed the Monster Mavericks show for a long time, and he helped me a lot over the years with all his calculations, which he mostly did in spreadsheets. And then when the land 1.5 white paper was announced and the surveying happened and I knew what I got with my tract, I created a rudimentary spreadsheet, and then I saw someone having these fancy drop-down selections, and I was completely baffled because I've never saw this in a spreadsheet before, and then I wanted that with all these colors, and yeah, I did it, and now I have a super versatile thing. I shared it. If you want to use it as well, you can find the link in the Splinterlands land channel pinned. I should make an update because since then I integrated a couple more things here. Anyhow, so like this column, for example, for buildings, where we will find all the available buildings in a drop down, and I already went through my tract. You can see here the rarity, starting from the most valuable ones basically, and then going bit by bit here from rare magic to rare to common magic to common. And then here you see the types. And this helped me to prepare now for 1.5. So as you can see here, with all these new buildings in this column, I did, maybe it looks a lot at first look, but it's actually pretty straightforward. I'm starting here at the mythic, which is the castle, the Trifor runes, my only option there. And then I'm applying to my legendary, which is just a normal, natural plot. My farm, it's also a grain work site right now. It will continue like this going forward. And then I have all my occupieds here, my better occupieds. Actually, all my occupieds here in this region, all outposts. I will not miss out on the resource creation from this specific, very rare resource, the essences, which we will then need to create elemental essences out of it. We were discussing it just a moment ago. So these are very important. And then I continue with my better natural ones to just farm what they can. Here in this case, I create farms and quarries, followed by rare magics, all applying the specific building to them that they are allowed in order to farm the natural well, it's not called natural in this case, but the resource on their according plot. And then here all my rares are all just farming resources, what they can. Again, common magics, all doing their magical stuff. And now it gets more complicated. So after doing this most obvious, in my opinion, assignment of plots here for the better plots, as soon as I get to my common plots, I'm in a completely different ballpark. First, I have a couple of forests here, which are doing logging and then I'm already starting to create the first refinements here with sawmill and lumberyard, the storage. All these brown ones are storage ones, by the way, they have all the same color. A little bit more farms, and then only here, as you can see, all my deserts and canyon plots, which would actually quarries. But since I already have a couple of quarries here, quite a few actually in rare plots, I decided to take all my options for further quarries and out due to a lack of plots actually, and I have over 100 plots in my tract here. All these orange colored plots are all in region 65. They're all in my main region with my castle. It's here row number 108, and I think it starts at 2. So there are 107 plots, and I don't have enough. All of these blue ones here are refinement buildings. The lithification site for my quarries, the rune tower, the runology tower for my Trifor runes from my castle, the alchemy lab for that's the one for the desalinization process. We haven't talked about it yet, but we will in a second, which will require salt and potions. I think my video is frozen here. Me staring staring to the ceiling. But can you see still my
Yeah, we can see your
screen?
mouse. We can see your mouse
Perfect.
moving
Then
over the spreadsheet. Yeah.
let's just ignore my funny video there for now. So tons of labs because I have a sufficient amount of magical plots, and I want them all to refine what they get. So this, just imagine, this costs me already 5 full plots just to do my magical refinement. And I think, I mean, I'm just speculating here, right? We don't know how much is required, how much we get out of these resource production buildings. We don't know how much we can put into a laboratory or any of these other buildings. So this is just very, very preliminary planning here on my side. But I assume that with my magical plots that you see here for the commons and here for the rares, I will be able to run more or less 5 for now. That's what I put in here. And then all these different storage buildings. This is all storage here. All storage. Some of them I planned more, like the energy well, hoarding the essences, or the stone yard for the refinement of my quarries, and here the granary for the refinement of my farms. Yeah, so as you can see, It's crazy. You need tons and tons of plots if you want to do this all. And I'm still not doing it all. This is not complete. I'm missing out on the entire mines because I don't have any mine natural buildings. As you can see here, they're all in region 41, where I have luckily more plots, so I can do stuff there, but it's already in a different region.
Yeah.
Where we'll do the entire stuff with mines and foundries and metal silos. So yeah, it's very complex already. And if you have not hundreds of plots, then you have to be very, very selective of what you want to do, how you want to approach this.
This is where, like
Go ahead.
Aggie was saying, like no one will be able to do everything. There's not enough. Like there's not enough for
Exactly.
anyone to do
Yeah.
everything. Yeah. It's crazy.
Yeah, let me rejoin Zoom.
Yeah. I
He
think
really wanted his video
yeah, Matt, you're gonna have
instead
to
of looking like.
well, when he was doing a spread, I had our mugshots all pushed over to the side, so I couldn't even see the video anyway. But Matt, you're going to have to like get some spreadsheet action happening. I think I'm going to be
Look,
okay with my 5 plots, but you're going to need some spreadsheet like lessons.
He's already done the hard work for me with that sharing that spreadsheet. So that's great. Yeah, cheers. I'm very much more slapdash and haphazard, but I think as we get closer and we know more, then I'll go out of my way to be more prepared. But I am just thinking, when the big thing that I'm thinking is I've got in different territories, I've got smaller blocks of 21 plots in Pacific Northwest, and then another 21 plots in Land of Promise, 28, 28, 28. So I've got these sections, these chunks, and I'm thinking there are people like yourself who are got mostly a chunk of plots in one spot, and then they need a quarry that they don't have then they might be people who are interested in surfing those plots of mine, just because they're in the same region, right? So you're saying I've got these plots, but they're in another region, then I've got to worry about moving stuff around. And I'm thinking there are going to be people closer to sort of Bob's size who say I want to do this and this and this, but I can't get that one component. So I'm kind of glad that I've got these islands of chunks in various different regions, because they're going to be valuable land plots for somebody. And if surfing comes out in 1.6, which is what Matt sort of heavily implied in the town hall, then that means that I'm not too far off those things just being made and those plots being utilised for me. So yeah, that's sort of my take home when you're talking about where your personal limitations are.
It certainly does add a whole new level to land surfing for sure. So looking at the
You want to do that,
complexity
Gio?
there with the spreadsheets,
Yeah.
I'm actually feeling really good about my 5 plots, and I guess that someone like Matt is going to have to start banging out some spreadsheets, and anyone I think with more than 20, even 50 plots, they're going to have to get some spreadsheet action happening. Like the complexity is just like it's crazy. Matt?
Yeah, indeed.
You can get some spreadsheet action
Yes,
happening.
Well, I figure what I could do is just harvest grain on everything, and then just sell it. Like
Yeah.
that's the simple way. Just grain on every plot, and then just sell that.
But you've got a lot of
Let the rest of it.
forests.
Oh yeah, well, lumber then. We'll go lumber. Just everything.
Yeah,
Everything lumber. Just
Yeah.
keep it simple for myself.
Yeah.
100%.
But it actually doesn't work like that. You need at least a certain amount of storage buildings for your lumber, because I don't know how long the integrated storage in the sawmills will work. Or actually you don't even need sawmills with your strategy. You would just need what are they called? Lumberjacks? So no, lumberjacks are the people working
Lumberyard.
on
Yeah.
lumber yards.
Yeah, I think with liquidity, you need to have the specific storage buildings. But with the if it's just for your personal usage, then there should be enough there. But Yeah, no, it's interesting because I remember last week we were talking about being unclear the ratios between the resource, like the refinement buildings and the storage buildings, and what sort of ratio you're going to need. Will one storage building service
Hmm.
3 refinement buildings, for example? But when you look at the fact that they can all have different levels up to level 10, and assuming that does go live in 2.0, then we can kind of like, rather than worrying about how many plots you've got of a ratio of this to that, you can kind of just say, well, if I need more storage, I can just upgrade my storage building without worrying about adding another plot. Or
Right.
if the refinements are getting ahead of that, and I've got plenty of storage, then I can just upgrade 1 or 2 or 3 of my refinement buildings instead. So there is a lot of wiggle room there to play catch up as we go along.
That
It has
reminds me of an interesting point there. But Boba Fett, go ahead. I was talking so much recently. Please.
Enjoy it.
this is why we invited you to do so. So that's fine. But I was just going to ask Gio how this may have affected his strategy, because like you've got like
Right.
what 12 plots now,
Yeah.
or something.
No, I have 15 now. And
You bought more since the last episode.
no, I had 15. Oh yeah, I
Ah.
think the last 2 episodes. Anyway, I am not sure how eventually it will show or present itself to be that to run 15 plots, how to run 15 plots will be most efficient. Like what would be the best way for what I have for my types of plots, how it would be run best. There's so many like upgrade paths for so many people because we all have different stuff and different amounts of varying plots. This is all that's running through my head. I don't think we have any clue still as to really. I know you can get like little inklings of. You can start to build a picture like Flauwy's doing, right? You can really assume, but we just don't know enough yet. But what I do know is that there's going to be more extra costs that I think I'm going to have to like wait on like SPS for. And once that rises, slowly swap into DEC as time moves on. Like even like the like the elixir for the guilds. Like I don't feel so bad like to put into a guild, because I know that's gonna help with lands. All these little things that are gonna help with lands, like even chests. Like it's awesome. Like I just don't know in which direction that I will be going once it's all out. I just think I'm gonna have to really look into it and really see what I want to do because I know it's limited, but I guess it makes it all the more better when you are limited, right? Yeah, it's more exciting to see like, okay, what do you really want to do instead of like, I can do it all. Great, okay, yeah, that's my take.
Has anyone found anything whilst harvesting?
What do you mean with found totem fragments?
Yeah.
Items.
Yes, I
Yes.
got a couple. I got like three normal ones, common ones, and 1 legendary fragment. No,
I-
sorry. Epic, not legendary. Epic.
Still great.
Still good, but not as good.
I harvested
Matt?
my 5 plots this morning at 79% capacity, but still nothing.
Yeah, but to be fair,
Yeah.
the normal plots have a very low amount. Even if you wait until they're nearly full, the amount will still be in the lower 1-digit area, I think.
Yes. But RNG can surprise you every now and then. Like
Absolutely.
last end of season, I opened up 1 chest and it was like 2.5k SPS in 1 chest. Like so, RNG just can raise its head every now and then. Yeah.
Yep. And vice versa. You claim a castle and you get nothing, even though you waited for a week. It's just what it is. 50%
Yeah.
chance means nothing.
The Roaring Twenties castle is sitting at 41% full, but I've yet to claim on it at all. So that means that since land went live, we still haven't half filled the castle based on the taxes coming in from Region 29. But I expect as that continues, as the region gets more built up, it will be 3 days before the castle
Quicker.
fills up, and then it might end up being even quicker than that. So it would be interesting to get to the point where I've got to set an alarm to wake up in the middle of the night so the castle doesn't fill it. with a million resources.
That's a
while
good
I'm
problem
asleep.
to have.
Yeah, it would be a good problem to have. I think I'd be deputising somebody else, or hoping that the Peak Monsters guys do some sort of a automated claim
Yes.
there. We've had 0 totem fragments pulled up, by the way, so you're going gangbusters ahead of us there, Flauwy.
Right. What was my point earlier? Oh yeah, right. So about our ability to add to a liquidity pool. So this goes a little bit into this next post where we will discuss internal markets and also resource storage and how it affects when you are providing liquidity to a certain resource. But yeah, we can look in more detail into the post in a second, but already discuss how limited we are in our ability actually to provide into a pool by the economic factors. So at first we can put in a little bit just with the storage that we get from our producing and refinement buildings. And then we will quickly need more specific storage building for that resource where we want to provide liquidity. And it makes me wondering how that will affect the entire ecosystem, that there is this limit to it. So normally, if you are a big whale, you just buy these tokens or get them somehow, and then you throw them in, and all of a sudden you have a large proportion of that pool. This will not be as easy with Land and Land 2.0. You will have to have the infrastructure for it, and I believe it might turn out quite interesting if you have, but if you don't, then you can't just quickly say, oh yeah, I'm throwing in a couple of helio stones into the helio stone pool, because you don't have enough slots to handle it all. What do you think about it?
Yeah, I think it's going to be the great equalizer. I mean, as it stands, like, Matt, your daily SPS rewards for staking compared to mine, there's a massive difference. But and that's based on something that you've already accumulated. So you're doing nothing for that now, and you're getting it every day. Whereas with this land, if you want to get massive returns, you're going to have to put more into the game. You can't keep doing this as rewards for what you've already got. So the passive income side of things is still there, because you still keep getting your SPS, but the next stage is like you have to start from scratch. If you want massive returns, you have to start putting in again.
Upgrading buildings.
Just to be more specific here, putting in more is always the case in any DeFi thing, right?
Yeah.
But here it's more than just putting in more, because putting in more could be just some sort of liquidity that you take from here and move it there. This will not work here. You will need the infrastructure to produce it. Maintenance costs, exactly. The monsters, the plots, the building, the maintenance costs, all these other things that are taking place in your region and so on, like the desalinization. We will talk about this in a second. We still haven't. Very important part. And if you don't have that, then you can't. You just can't. You can't even go into the pool and say, I am just buying my share out of the pool and then putting it back into the pool, because you can't. You can buy it out. But then what do? You can't put it in because you don't have the storage. And by the way, which leads directly to the next question, how do you even, is it even possible to buy out stuff that is beyond your storage?
Maybe, but it might just sit in Hive Engine or something and not contribute until you send it to the game.
Maybe. But then it will be still in game, because Hive Engine will not be a thing for these resources, as far as I understand it. They will stay in game. It's very interesting, very important. They will not be traded somewhere else. They will stay within the lore, that you have to have it all in those regions, and not be somehow weirdly traded now somewhere else, which doesn't make much sense from an in-game perspective.
Okay.
but there is a difference between your region and your over region. Right now, for example, from the what was it, the time crystal special that we bought when the surveying took place, we got
Building in a
those grain.
box.
Yeah, it was building in a box as well, was one of those specials.
Yeah.
But the other one, the time vault or whatever it
Time
was
vault.
called,
Time vault.
Yeah.
Yeah.
gave us grain. And this grain that we got, it sits on an over region level in game, and it doesn't take any fees to move it to one of those regions. But once it's in the region, it will cost fees moving it further along. So it could very well be that stuff goes in there as well in the future. But still, yeah, just an interesting question, I think. What happens if I buy tons of heliostones out of the pool? Where will they be? Will they go directly into one of those regions? Will I be limited in my buy option by my storage? Or will I have the chance to buy tons and put it somewhere in this over region storage where the normal storage doesn't apply any longer?
Like a
We don't know
TARDIS.
yet. Yeah,
I feel like the
Well-
grind is going to be real, and I'll end with that.
totally.
Is
All
there,
right.
rental of storage? I think that they mentioned that you get
Yes.
storage, but it
Yes. That true.
It'll
But-
empty out your DEC because it'll be expensive. So if you
Ooh.
buy more than you can actually, I reckon that's the. See, what
Okay,
else has
so
got me, and we're kind of jumping around all over the place, but the elixir for liquidity pools, right? So it's based on the DEC that you provided when you provided liquidity, or when you last altered the amount of liquidity, removed any or added any. And so what's really interesting to me is that if the base currency increases in value, right, then how does that work with your commensurate amount of DEC? Does that raise or lower? And when that happens, will people be incentivized to, say, for example, a circumstance occurs where there's a difference in the price compared to when you applied the liquidity? If you put in 1,000 dark energy crystals worth of DEC, and then you're now at 2,000 DEC worth, well, it's worth you adding one more liquidity, just a nominal amount, just changing your balance so that now you've got 2,000 DEC worth in there, because you're going to double the amount of elixir that you're going to get. So how frequently are people going to do that? If the price changes and over time people's DEC holdings are increasing in the liquidity pool, are they just going to be constantly just running scripts to constantly keep changing their total balance just so they can maximize their elixir haul? And are there any unanticipated consequences there?
great
again, we're skipping
question. Yeah, I was thinking the same, because it creates a gamifying mechanism. This is going into the I think it's the final section of the latest post.
That's right.
Where storage, buildings, and providing liquidity works together. And as you already mentioned, it takes a snapshot of the moment when you put in liquidity, and looks specifically at the deck amount at that moment, and then provides elixir. The same goes for the storage that is required. That will look specifically at the other side of the liquidity that you put in. You put in 1,000 spark stones, and it will take up 1,000 slots from your storage. But then the ratio over time in that liquidity pool is moving, and you have more spark stones and less deck. Let's just say the other way. You have more deck and less spark stones. Now it's very interesting to make a change in that liquidity position, because now then you will earn more elixir for the deck position, and it will require less storage for the resource that you have in. So you have more room to put in even more liquidity into the pool before your storage is full. It's very interesting dynamic, and I'm still not sure what to think about it. But I understand that they do it that way, because otherwise it would have to calculate dynamically out of your pool positions, which can be tricky and can change very quickly, and you're already sitting there in front of the interface and you want to swap and you're still thinking and you're still moving liquidity in order to get your spark stones, and all of a sudden there is a price change.
Yeah.
Actually that will still take place anyways,
It
but
could just
I
be
guess
really
go.
taxing on a shorter time frame. You
Yeah.
know?
Well, I mean that for the buyer that will still be the case. This will not change. But for the liquidity provider and the calculations of how much someone gets when the fee is being created by someone who buys and then distributed to everyone, I don't know if this is very complicated to do on a dynamic basis, or it's much easier, most likely than with the system they are describing now, where you have a fixed amount and everything is basically in a table, and it's always the same until someone does a change in the LP position. But it's complicated, I think, and it's exactly what Matt said. Some people will try to optimize their way they provide liquidity, and what will be a thing then in the future? Will you have tools that automatically make changes in your LP position based on beneficial situations?
Well, I think what
I
you've
don't know.
hinted at there, if the fees are based on the amount of the resource that you've last entered, right? Then it might be an each way bet where, okay, if you've got more DEC now, then you do that, but you're locking in a lower amount of the resources, and then you're getting less of the fees, right? Perhaps that's the trade-off there, where you're getting more elixir because you're providing more DEC worth of liquidity, but there's also fewer resources, so now you're getting less of the actual swap fees, perhaps.
I do believe that the fees are paid out only in deck. So if you are in the Heliostone deck pool, you will not earn fees from the Heliostone side and the deck side, because the Heliostone side doesn't have any how do I say, this comes to the desalinization
Monetary
process
value.
again. It does have monetary value, but we don't have an excess there, which is growing and shrinking based on other factors in Praetoria, like the desalinization process. The more you put in, the less are your fees in the swap. This only affects the deck side, and it's also being said in that final post that we are now already basically talking about without specifically mentioning it, is that what I also said earlier today is, as if you swap into a resource, it takes the fee out of your deck in that moment, and if you swap out of a resource, it also takes
Out
the
of the
deck
deck.
side. Yes.
Yeah.
And then the amount of fee that you're paying there, you can reduce by adding to the desalinization project.
Yeah.
So there again, we have a fee, which is for everyone, but it's flexible. And because we have that fee, now we have a dynamic where people can do stuff with that part of Praetoria in order to change the amount of the fee, which still everyone has to pay, but is different depending on your specific circumstances and effort that you and your region, in that case of the desalinization process, put in. Maybe we just go there now. We have mentioned it a million times now, and we have a look at the post.
Great.
So
segue.
I would share my screen again and hope that everything works.
It's all too real, isn't it?
So here's the final post. Can you see it?
Yes.
Yep.
All right. So this is part 4, storage, markets, and desalinization. And I was very surprised by the desalinization process, and in a very good way. I did not expect something like that, and it's huge. It's massive. So the premise is that Praetoria is salty. It's a very salty continent. which makes a lot of sense when we look at all the salt being spread for a long time in Discord, especially in the math chat, to a point where briefly before the 2.0 release, it just went
Do you
overhead.
think
And
this could be like a response to that, like a dev sense of
clearly,
humor? Yeah.
it was even requested by the players themselves to add salt to Praetoria, and Matt found the idea very funny. I don't think he had it in mind before all that took place. So yeah,
It's a
but
great mineral.
It
It's
is.
a great mineral.
yes,
Like
it
it's a
is,
perfect mineral to have.
and it creates very bland food
Yeah.
if you don't have it,
Yeah.
right? But it's actually not part of the food processing. It's
It's its own
specifically
thing.
for something else. It's its own thing. So the premise is Pretoria is very salty. You start with your region. All 150 regions are 100% salinated. Is that the right way to say it?
Yeah.
So it's a fully saturated salinization for each region where we start. And the desalinization crystals, which we will be able to earn in loot chests, in guild participation, I assume broads, maybe other stuff there as well. Plus more, which is still TBD. So there will be plenty of ways to earn these. DCs, as they are called in short, not to be confused with DEC. So the DCs, which can also be bought by from Splinterlands directly, similar to the time crystals and the grain right now, probably to an overprice, which will be much more beneficial on the open market as soon as the pools are available for DCs. And then you can take your DCs and add them to the reconstruction. Actually, it's not reconstruction. This is the infrastructure project, I believe, as it was mentioned on the flow chart, where we had no specific feedback what this actually exactly means. And I think it wasn't mentioned in the post specifically, but I believe this is it, the desalinization project for your region contributes to the greater infrastructure of the entire region. And there will be a pool similar to the maintenance costs pool. So you can pay in advance your DCs. You throw them into that pool for your region. This is what's being talked about in this paragraph here. We will start at 100%. Each day, a fixed amount of DC will be deducted from the pool of DC contributed by players to that region in order to reduce the salinization rate, the SR, by up to 2%. Interesting how it's using the 2%, similar to how Hive regenerates 2% of voting power every 2 hours and so on. There's similar dynamics going on. Up until the point, or down to a point, basically, I should say, where you reach 0% salinization rate, which is what you want when we look at the benefits table in a second. But before we do that, the reverse process is also extremely interesting. So you say, okay, I don't want to contribute to the salinization rate. Maybe someone else does it, or maybe no one does it, and I don't care. I don't have the funds, I don't have the interest, whatever the reason might be, because this will be ongoing costs. Let's be honest here. This will be a permanent cost every single day for all landholders who are interested in lowering this salinization process. If you don't have enough in that pool for that daily cost, it will go up by 5%. So bit by bit, 2% each day. And one day you don't do it 5%. That's worth 2.5 days of efforts if you don't do it. So you will, even both as an individual as well as a group, being residual in a specific region, you have to make the hard choice. Will I allow that? Because there is no wiggle room as far as I understand it. There will be no 0.5% or something. Not 100% sure on this. Actually, it says by up to 2%. Actually, this indicates there will be a wiggle room. So you don't need to provide everything to get the full 2%, but you have to get at least 0.01% or whatever the minimum might be. At least something must be in it. Otherwise, boom, 5% towards the 100% salinization rate again.
It'll depend on how readily these decel crystals can arise. I can see a situation where somebody with a lot of land and maybe not interested in battling would just say, well, that's all right. I'll just go at 100% salinity and just not engage with that side of the game. You know, just let it be. Just pay the taxes and wear the slight reduction in productivity, assuming it is slight. We don't know. We don't have figures for any of this.
Well, let's have a look at the benefits list. But Bob wants to say something first.
Yeah, I was just going to say this could be an incentive for large landowners to bring in squatters, surfers to their region. So, hey, look, I'm going to keep the desalination down, you guys,
That's
but
interesting.
you know, you need to pay me this amount to squat on my
Yeah.
land.
Good point. I mean, we don't know how squatting or land surfing will work. If there will be any options for the landowners to affect how much the land surfers will get. If we have something like, hey, you get 40% or 60%, that will give us a lot of room to say, yeah, okay, I'm already providing all the desalinization crystals to the salinization of the region. It's at 0%. We get all the tons of benefits. So come here, but you will get a little bit less than in a different region where instead of earning 40%, where you might earn 50% of the incoming resources. That could be a very interesting dynamic. Yeah, I agree. Very good point, Bob. Love it. But we don't know any details about land surfing, and it seems the team doesn't either. So we have to wait for what they come up with.
Yeah.
Let's have a look at the benefits then, because oh my God, they are crazy. And I didn't even realize it at first reading. I had to read it a second time before it really sunk in. Exactly. So here are four things that happen based on the desalinization rate. We will have reduced tax rates. Please explain that more, Team Splinterlands. That's my first question for the next town hall. I did not have a chance to ask it in the last one, so this has to wait until next year. Or maybe Fab or even Matt himself will be so nice to answer it on Discord if we ask it there. But what does it even mean? Reduced tax rate from 15%? Wait a second, 15%? Why 15%? We only pay 10%. Where is this coming from? Who is paying that? For what? Exactly. So from 15% down to 7.5%. So does it mean that we all start now all of a sudden at 15% taxes in Land 2.0 and it's not 10% any longer as it is now?
Is that the 10% tax plus the 5% per day if no one's paying?
Yes, basically. So that's what I assume. I don't know, but it seems to me to be a global tax rate similar to what we have now with the 10%. Everything you earn, you pay 10% flat fee. But this seems to be adjusted for 2.0. You get a flat fee of 15% because we all start at 100% salinization rate. And then you can push that down further to 7.5% at 0% salinization rate, 50% reduction, which will be 2.5% lower than it is now. So if your region is active in that process, you will pay less than you do now in Texas.
It's possible, Flauwy, that 10% that Yaba was giving us was based on a 50% salination rate.
Maybe we maybe from a lore perspective, we added to the salinization when we start conquering the continent or something, or maybe some other processes were already in place before. I think it's perfectly fine that they made this change, because now again we have this big wiggle room in order to go down. Otherwise, we would just have the 5% to go down to 5%. Then there would be no burning at the 0% salinization rate whatsoever. It could be argued that, well, it's burning of something that is freshly minted anyway, so it doesn't make a difference. But others think differently, so whatever. And it still gives us 2.5% wiggle room to apply somewhere else in the economy to further improve your something, maybe buildings, maybe some other process to further go down on this from 7.5 to 5%. And then the last 5%, as I mentioned earlier, go to the keep and castle owners and shall not be touched. Otherwise, they would lose out there, and that's not the point. Matt even mentioned they should rather get more than they get right now, because everyone, including Matt, seems to think that keeps and castles are still not as powerful as they are intended to be, even with everything that is coming up here going forward.
And
I see that my screen sharing just dropped.
Yes,
Should I bring it back up?
have less than 2 minutes on the clock to wrap up
no!
this episode. Like, the time just goes so fast, it's incredible.
We still haven't talked about the desalinization benefits all.
And the benefits, yes.
Yeah. Well, the post is out there, so perhaps we've whetted your appetite somewhat, and Flo's done a great job of highlighting what's important in this part. And if you were sitting there going, what is this salt? What's this desalination? Well, now you know. There is links in this post, first of all, to the spreadsheet that Flauwy put together. Thank you very much. So if you don't have spreadsheet skills, it's a template you can build upon. And there are also links to these, but I'm sure anyone who's watching this is checking those articles the minute that Yabba drops them into Splinterlands. But all that info is there. So thank you for joining us on episode 103. We're definitely going to have to do this again. We'll have a chat with Flauwy. We don't know what his availability is, but we'll work something out. And we have Eco Instant coming on. I reached out to Eco Instant. He wants to come on the show, so we'll work something out. And we will see you next week in episode 104. I'm Boba Fett. Peace out.
Stay Flauwy.
The production boost 50% for the entire region. Everything is just being boosted by 50%.